Kale was a human. But on the alien space station Virex Delta, that didn't mean much. To the aliens living there, humans were small, soft, and slow. They were not strong like the Grok warriors, not smart like the Vryn scholars, and not quick like the Zekan scouts. To them, humans were only good for simple tasks: cleaning, repairing wires, carrying tools. And Kyle, he was just one of those humans. He worked alone in the lower levels, wearing an old jumpsuit and carrying a rusty tool bag. No one greeted him. No one cared if he was tired or hurt. Some even laughed when they saw him. "Still here, human?" a Grok officer sneered one morning. "Don't fall into the trash chute." Kyle didn't reply. He just kept his head down and walked past. He had learned long ago that words changed nothing here. That day, Kyle was sent to clean a part of the station that had been sealed for over 300 years, a place called Sector 9. Most people avoided it. Old war zone, a Vryn. Engineer warned him. Full of dead tech and bad luck. But Kale didn't have a choice. His orders were simple: go inside, clean the systems, and report anything strange. So, he went. Sector 9 was dark. The lights barely worked. Dust covered every surface. Strange. Symbols were carved into the walls, symbols Kale didn't recognize. He moved slowly, sweeping dirt and scanning broken panels. Then, he noticed something odd. A wall at the end of the hallway looked different. It wasn't made of the same metal as the others. It was smoother and colder. Kale brushed away the dust. Behind it, he found a metal door, round, sealed, and glowing, faintly. No lock, no handle. He tried scanning it with his tool. Nothing. Then, without thinking, Kale placed his hand on the door. The metal became warm, and then it opened. A hiss of air escaped as the door slid apart, revealing a small chamber. Inside, Kyle stepped forward slowly. The room was filled with dim blue light. In the center floated something that took his breath away, a full-body suit of armor hovering in the air, glowing softly, like it was asleep. It looked ancient. Sharp lines, smooth surface, black and silver. Symbols moved across its chest like waves of light. Kyle whispered, "What is this?" As if hearing his voice, the armor moved. It turned, slowly, facing him. A voice filled the room. "Subject recognized, Kale of Earth. Bloodline compatible. Trial sequence initializing." Kale stepped back in shock. "Wait, what?" But the armor didn't stop. Pieces of it began to float toward him. Shoulder guards, chest plate, boots, helmet. He tried to run, but the armor moved faster. In seconds, the pieces locked onto his body. Smooth, light, and cold. They wrapped around him like water. Kale screamed, then everything went silent. He opened his eyes. He was standing, wearing the armor. He looked at his hands. They were glowing. He felt different, stronger, faster, more alive than ever before. "System bonded," the voice said. "Memory core linked. Power at 32%. Kale blinked. "What are you?" The voice replied. "I am Echo 9, last of the Warlord-class battle armor systems. You are now my host." Kale's heart pounded. "I didn't mean to. Chosen not by will, but by worth." Suddenly, the station trembled. Lights in the chamber flickered on. Old computers powered up. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a control desk glowing with ancient data. The armor spoke again. "Warning. Activation detected. Sector 9 status. Online. Alerting primary network." Kale's eyes widened. No, don't alert anyone." But it was too late. In the command center of Virex Delta, alarms went off. Alien officers turned toward their screens. A red alert blinked. "Forbidden zone breached. War armor online." One Grok guard growled. That area was sealed 300 years ago. A Vryn leader looked up, shocked. Only a human could activate that system. But that would mean... He paused, then whispered, "The armor has chosen." Back in Sector 9, Kale stood alone in the glowing room. He was no longer just the worthless guest. The armor had woken up, and the galaxy would never look at him the same way again. Kale didn't move. He couldn't. The armor wrapped around his body like it was a second skin. Not cold, not heavy, but strangely alive. Every piece fit perfectly, like it had been made for him, but how? He looked down at his hands. The fingertips glowed faint blue. The chest plate pulsed with soft light. Symbols he didn't recognize moved across the armor like flowing water. His heart raced. "I didn't ask for this," he whispered. The voice inside the helmet responded, calm, mechanical, yet almost human. "You didn't ask. You were chosen." Kale blinked. "Chosen for what?" "You are compatible. Host DNA matches sequence Echo 9, protocols unlocked." Kale shook his head. "I'm not a soldier, I'm not even important. I fix wires and sweep hallways." The armor pulsed once more. Purpose does not begin with power. It begins with need. Up above, chaos had begun. On the command deck of Virex Delta, alarms echoed across the station. Sector 9 systems online. Energy spike detected. Unknown tech signature active. Human life form linked to classified warframe Echo 9. The Grok officer slammed his fist against the table. Impossible. No human could survive that armor. A Vrin scientist checked. Her screen again. It's not just surviving, it's sinking. Back in Sector 9, Kale was trying to breathe. He stepped toward the control platform, every step smoother, stronger than the last. The armor moved with him, not against him. The old systems in the room activated, a console lit up in front of him. Lines of code danced across it. "Access granted. Welcome back, Commander Echo 9. Kale frowned. "Commander, you've got the, wrong guy." Suddenly, a large screen blinked on. A holographic map of the galaxy appeared. Red zones marked long-dead warfronts. One star system was flashing. Zealand Sector. Kale touched the blinking light. The screen zoomed in to show an ancient battle. Humans and aliens fighting together against massive machines. Explosions. Screams. The human warriors wore armor just like his. But there was one big difference. They were dying. "These are old memories," the armor said. "We lost. We were forgotten. But the armor remained. Waiting." Kyle stepped back, overwhelmed. "I don't want this." The voice softened. "Then return me, and the galaxy can end exactly as it did before him, in silence." Suddenly a loud clang echoed through the room. Doors behind him opened. Kyle turned. 3 alien soldiers, Zekan scouts, entered the chamber, weapons raised. "Freeze! Hands up!" Kyle lifted his hands slowly. "I don't want trouble." The lead soldier's eyes narrowed. "You're wearing the Echo 9 system. That's restricted tech. Surrender it now." Kale looked at his own chest. "I can't take it off." The alien gritted his teeth. "You what?" "I said it fused to me." They opened fire, but the armor didn't let him fall. The moment the first plasma bolt came near, the suit reacted. A shield flashed across Kyle's left side, deflecting the shot like water hitting steel. He didn't move. The armor did it all. The next bolt came, a faster one. The armor raised Kale's hand and a shockwave blasted outward, knocking the soldiers off their feet. Kale stared at his hand in shock. I didn't mean to." "Defense activated," the armor replied. "Host danger detected. Response measured." Kyle looked at the soldiers. They weren't hurt badly, just stunned. He knelt beside the lead one. "I told you. I didn't want to fight." The comms across the station flared. "This is Commander Varric. We have a situation in Sector 9. The human has activated the war armor. All units prepare for engagement." Kale turned to the main screen. His face was now labeled hostile, terminate on sight. He backed away, panic growing. But the armor spoke again, now in a deeper voice, more serious. You must choose. Run. Or rise. Kyle looked around. More troops were on the way. The lights turned red. The sound of boots echoed in the hallway. He looked down at the suit, then at his reflection in the broken glass near the wall. He didn't look like the old Kale anymore. He looked like a myth that had waited 300 years to wake. He turned toward the tunnel. I'm not ready. You are alive. That is enough. Kale sprinted into the dark faster than he ever thought possible. The armor followed his movement perfectly, adjusting every step, absorbing every impact, and somewhere deep in the station's memory core, something else stirred. A digital voice whispered from the shadows. Echo 9, host confirmed. Legacy sequence initializing. The war is not over. Across the metal walls of Virex Delta, one name flashed on every screen. Target, Echo 9. Host identified, Kale, human. Status, active. Directive, terminate with extreme force, from a nobody to a threat. And now Kale was being hunted. Elite soldiers from every alien race, Grok, Vryn, Zekin, Solari, were deployed. They didn't send patrols. They sent legends, units that hadn't left the shadows in decades. Trained assassins, mech-cloaked bounty teams. Their mission was simple: find the human, bring the armor back. Or bring him back in pieces. Kale didn't stop running. The armor was keeping him alive, guiding him, reacting to danger, scanning paths, unlocking doors he couldn't even see. He ducked into a forgotten hangar bay, breathing hard, his face pale under the helmet's visor. I can't keep this up, he whispered. Energy at 72%, the armor responded. Adrenaline spike. Normal. You will adapt. I don't want to adapt. I want to disappear. That is no longer possible. They have declared war on your survival. Outside the hangar, a Grok hunter named Zarnix the Splitjaw received orders. He smiled, showing his cracked fangs. I love chasing prey that runs, he said, loading a plasma hammer onto his back. But this one's wearing the Echo. That makes it sport. His squad activated predator drones, small floating orbs that sniffed out heat and fear. They moved fast, and they were getting close. Kale crouched behind a crate, trying to think. He wasn't a warrior. He didn't know battle tactics. He had never even punched anyone in his life. And now, killers were on his trail. He turned to a nearby wall panel and whispered, Can you hack into this? Show me the station layout? The armor responded. Already done. Escape path plotted. Hostility level increasing. A new screen flashed inside Kale's visor. A live feed. He saw them. The elite squad. One floor up. Coming. Straight for him, and then he made a mistake. He ran toward the emergency lift. The moment the doors opened, a blast hit him in the chest. He flew backwards, slamming into a wall. Pain burst through his ribs. He gasped, but he didn't break. The armor absorbed the worst of it. Warning, impact level 4, minor injury, auto repair in progress. Kyle looked up. Zarnix stood in the doorway, his plasma hammer humming with heat. I expected more from a legend, the Grok growled. Kale struggled to his feet. I'm not a legend. Zarnix smirked. Then this'll be fast. The battle was ugly. Zarnix swung, roaring. His hammer smashed into walls, leaving fire and sparks. Kyle dodged. Barely. The armor moved for him, blocking hits, redirecting energy. But Kale was slow, untrained, and Zarnix had killed hundreds of fighters. Still, the armor adapted. Every block made Kale smarter. Every dodge made him faster. He learned, not by choice, by survival. Then the armor whispered, Permission to release auxiliary function? What does that mean? Kyle gasped. A moment of strength, but you must guide it. Kyle nodded. Do it. The armor pulsed. Time slowed. Kyle saw Zarnix mid-swing, heavy, off balance. He stepped forward, ducked, and slammed his armored fist into Zarnix's chest. The Grok flew backward, smashing through a wall, unconscious. Silence. Kyle stood, in the smoke, blinking. Threat neutralized, the armor said calmly. Reaction time improved by 22%. Kyle looked down at his hands. I just took down a Grok Elite. You listen to the armor. That is the first step. But there was no time to celebrate. The bounty signal was growing louder. Other hunters were coming. Worse ones. And somewhere deeper in the station, another signal had just awakened. It wasn't military. It wasn't alien. It was old. Pre-digital. Human dear, a voice crackled through hidden channels. Echo 9. Signal confirmed. Host alive. Legacy systems unlocked. Echo Legion. Returning to field. Kale didn't hear it, but others did. Deep in abandoned sectors, stasis pods hissed open. Sleepers, forgotten human warriors, stirred for the first time in centuries. One opened her eyes, armor dull and scratched. She smiled slowly. Looks like the kid woke the stars. Meanwhile, Kale met a new face. As he stumbled into a hidden cargo room, a female alien stepped out of the shadows, thin, with glowing eyes and long robes. Her name was Lyra, a shadow technician. A code slicer, a ghost in the system. She didn't point a weapon, she held up her hand. I don't serve the council, she said. I serve the truth. And the truth is, you're not the enemy here. Kyle looked at her, confused and scared. Then, what am I? Lyra smiled. You're the reset button the galaxy didn't know it needed. The lights in the old cargo room flickered, not because of damage, because something ancient had just started to breathe again. Kale sat on a steel bench, the Echo 9 armor still wrapped around his body, dim now, almost sleeping, like it had spent too much energy fighting the elite hunter. His hands were shaking, not from fear anymore, but from realization he had survived, he had won. But what had he stepped into? Across from him stood Lyra, the alien code slicer, tall, calm, eyes like glass. Her voice was steady, but her words were heavy. You think you just found a weapon? She said. But Echo 9 wasn't made to fight battles. Kyle looked up. It wasn't. Lyra shook her head slowly. No, it was made to end wars. Permanently. She pressed a switch on the wall. An old projector hummed to life. A dusty hologram appeared. It showed the galaxy, hundreds of systems, many now marked as lost, and in the center of it all, a glowing red zone labeled Silence Protocol. What's that? Kyle asked. Lyra stared at the map. That's what they used to call the final line, the place where the last real war happened, before the lies, before the purge, before the humans were erased from the story. Kale leaned closer. My people fought there? They didn't just fight, Lyra said quietly. They almost won. Kale turned to her. So why don't the aliens talk about it? Lyra looked away. Because history is written by the ones who survive, and rewritten by those who feel threatened. The armor pulsed again, not bright, but enough to activate a new interface Kale hadn't seen before. A voice, not robotic this time, but human, soft and tired, began to play. Echo 9 field log, Commander Juno speaking. If you're hearing this, then you've been chosen, or cursed. Kale froze. Lyra stared. That's an original echo. The voice continued. This armor was one of 9. We called ourselves the Legion. We weren't perfect. We were tired, but we were the last line. The enemy didn't beat us. We were betrayed. By Drax Velan. The name hit like a hammer. Kale stood up slowly. Who is that? Lyra's face darkened. A myth. A former high general of the Conquered. Some say he died. Some say he vanished. Kale's armor suddenly locked, and the voice spoke in real time. Drax Velan is alive. Kale's chest tightened. How do you know? Because he just tried to access this armor's kill switch and failed. Elsewhere on the station, in a chamber sealed off from the public deep underground, machines stirred. A figure stood before a glowing stasis tank. Inside floated a tall, armored being, scarred, smiling, alive. Drax Velan, the very one who helped build the Echo Legion, then betrayed them, and vanished into legend. He watched the screen showing Kale's face inside the suit. "He's smaller than I expected," Drax said. The voice of his assistant replied through the comms, "But he's bonding faster than any Echo before." Drax smiled. "Good. That means I won't have to train him before I take it back." Back in the hidden room, Kale's eyes burned with questions. "Why me?" he asked the armor. "I'm not a fighter. I'm not a hero. I'm not anyone." "That is why you were chosen," the armor said. "You are not seeking power. You are trying to survive. That is what made the first Echoes strong." Lyra turned toward him. "You're not the end of something, Kale." She smiled softly. "You're the restart." Outside, the station trembled. Fighters flew through the skies. Red lights blinked across the hull. Something was coming. No, someone was waking. Drax Velen's signal was now active again, and every old enemy that had once fallen asleep was listening. Kale stood slowly. He felt the armor tightening again, not as a trap, as a reminder. Echo 9, Core Unlock Level 2 achieved, Defensive Protocol lifted, Combat Response authorized. The walls of the cargo room split open. Behind them was a passage no one had seen for years. It led deeper into the old parts of the station, the forbidden levels, the original war core. Kyle looked at Lyra. "I think the real fight hasn't started yet." She nodded. "No? But now, you know what's at stake." And so, the human they once mocked, the one called worthless, walked into the fire, not to destroy, but to find the truth buried by fear, silence, and betrayal. The air was colder now, not because of the temperature, but because the truth had weight, and Kale was carrying it. He walked through the ancient passage hidden beneath the station. Old lights flickered as if waking from a dream. Rusted pipes hissed softly. Digital signs blinked in forgotten languages. The deeper he went, the louder the whispers grew inside the Echo 9 armor. They weren't just code, they were memories. The armor wasn't just metal. It was a living record, and it was starting to remember. Kale paused at the end of the hallway. Before him stood a massive sealed door. It was cracked, scratched, burned. Symbols glowed faintly across its surface like veins filled with light. The armor spoke inside his mind. "Final core ahead. Memory restoration will begin. Are you ready?" Kyle took a breath. "No." Acknowledged. "Beginning anyway." The door opened. Inside was a room filled with frozen time. Coffins lined the walls, cryopods, each one dark and empty except for one. In the center stood a long table. And on it, another suit of armor, old, worn, broken, but strangely familiar. Kale stepped closer. As his fingers touched the chest plate, the Echo 9 armor flashed. The lights dimmed, and suddenly, the room disappeared. He was standing on a battlefield, but not in the present, in the past. Flashes of war burned in the sky. Aliens and humans fought side by side, covered in dirt and fire. And there, in the center of the chaos, stood a warrior in Echo 9. But it wasn't Kale. It was someone else. Mantal Brave calm in the storm, and behind him, Drax Velen fighting with him, laughing with him, until the warrior turned his back, and Drax stabbed him through the spine. The memory shattered. Kale gasped and fell to his knees. The room returned. The armor whispered again, softer this time. "You are not the first, Kale. The one before you. He trusted the wrong hand, and he died alone." Kale stood up slowly, fists clenched. He was betrayed. "Yes." "By Drax." "Yes." Kale stared at the broken armor on the table. "So, what do you want me to do?" The voice answered, not cold, but like it had waited centuries to say the next words. "Finish the story." Outside, alarms screamed. The station shook. Drax Velen had fully awakened, and his personal fleet was already surrounding Virex, Delta, In the main control tower, screens filled with his face. Older, pale, eyes glowing with strange tech. He smiled. Attention, citizens. You have allowed a human to activate a forbidden weapon. This is not a rebellion. This is corruption, and I have returned to cleanse it. Lyra watched from a hidden control node. She turned to Kale, who had just returned from the vaults below. You saw it? He nodded. I saw everything. And now? Kale looked up, the armor glowing brighter than ever before. I'm not running anymore. The Echo 9 armor began to shift. It changed shape, not wildly, just enough to fit him better, to match his body, not the one it was made for. Small plates unlocked. The back opened slightly. Wings. Short. Sleek. Silent. Kyle blinked. I can fly? You can now. Outside, Drax's voice boomed again. Bring me the human, and I will spare. The station. Resist and burn. Kale stepped forward. No more hiding, no more waiting. This armor isn't a relic. He clenched his fist. It's a promise. Moments later, Kale flew for the first time. Not through atmosphere, through legacy. The station cracked as he shot upward, faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. People below looked up, watching the worthless human become a streak of light. Some whispered, in awe, some prayed, and one child said softly, Mom, is that a hero? Kale reached the outer rings of the station. Dozens of enemy drones turned to face him. Laser turrets tracked his every move. Drax's fleet locked on. But Kale didn't flinch. He stretched both arms and the armor responded. Core charge unlocked, energy weapon ready. Echo 9 is fully online. He didn't just blast through the drones. He outthought them. The armor calculated their routes, predicted their shots, moved him like wind through fire. By the time the third wave came, he wasn't flying anymore. He was commanding the storm. Inside Drax's ship, silence fell. He shouldn't be able to do this, a captain said. Drax narrowed his eyes. No human has ever mastered Echo that fast. Then his smile returned. Unless the armor wanted him to. Back on the battlefield, Kyle hovered over the fleet, glowing like a star. His voice echoed across their comms. You forgot us. You mocked us. You buried our names. But now, he raised his hand, and the armor began to sing. A hum that reached across frequencies, across minds. You remember. Space was on fire. Flames danced. In the vacuum, broken ships floated like bones. The stars watched silently as a human, the same one they had once laughed at, became the center of the storm. Kyle hovered between the station and the enemy fleet. His Echo 9 armor pulsed with power, not loud, not wild, but deep and steady, like the heartbeat of something older than war. Inside, he wasn't sweating, he wasn't afraid, he was ready. The voice inside his armor whispered again. Echo 9 core has reached judgment state. Final protocol, unlocked. You are now more than a host. You are the will of the forgotten. Drax Valen watched from his throne room aboard his flagship. He stood tall, wrapped in high-tech battle robes, his arms glowing with energy wires that pulsed like veins. His face was calm, but his eyes burned. He's more in sync with the suit than I ever was, he said. His assistant asked, Should we deploy the Voidwalkers? Drax shook his head. No. This isn't a fight for armies. This is personal. He turned toward the launch bay. Prepare my armor. I'll face the Echo myself. Kyle landed back inside the station, not for retreat, but for one last talk with Lyra. She was waiting in the hangar, watching the sky crackle from the ongoing battle. You don't have to go alone, she said. Kyle shook his head. This started with one betrayal. It ends with one truth. She stepped closer. Just remember, he's not just a fighter, he's a manipulator. He'll try to twist your mind. Kyle gave her a small smile. Let him try. The armor remembers what I am now. Moments later, Kale walked into the ancient arena deep inside Virex. the place once used for conquered trials before peace turned into fear. Now, it was a battleground once more. Across the arena, Drax Valen descended from above, armored in black and gold, his cape flickering with energy. His armor was sleeker, newer, but not alive like Kyle's. The old general smiled. Last time I stood here, your kind was kneeling. Kyle's voice came through his helmet. Quiet, steady, and now you're looking at the one who stands for them. Without another word, the battle began. Drax moved fast, launching beams of compressed light, summoning shields, teleporting in quick bursts. Kale fought back, each blow sharper, each dodge smoother. The Echo 9 armor flowed like wind, adapting mid-strike, predicting Drax's moves. They clashed again and again. Metal rang out like thunder. Walls cracked. The sky above the arena split from the shockwaves. No one watching could believe it. The human was winning, but Drax was not done. He growled and slammed his palms to the ground. Recall, Void Storm mode. His armor expanded, glowing dark red, forming giant energy arms, and a face mask shaped like a beast. Kale took a step. Back then, the armor whispered, he has stolen pieces of the old tech, he was never meant to have them. Do I match him now? Kyle asked. The voice paused. You don't match him, you surpass him, because he powers his suit with fear, and you power it with purpose. Kale closed his eyes, and then he let go. The Echo 9 armor shifted, not violently, not with pain, but with grace. Wings formed again, larger now. His chest plate opened briefly and revealed a glowing blue core. His voice echoed through the arena. I'm not the warrior you expected. I'm the one your lie gave birth to. Kale charged forward. The final clash shook the station. Drax fired everything. Missiles, beams, sonic charges. Kale moved through it all, cutting through sound, light, and shadow, and when he reached Drax, he didn't strike to kill, he struck to end the lie, one blow to the chest, one to the mind, and then the armor sent a memory flash from its deepest file, a file only Kale could deliver. It showed Drax betraying the first Echo warrior, and smiling. It played across every screen in the station, across the fleet, across the Council satellites, across the stars. The truth, finally unchained. Drax Valen fell to his knees, not defeated by power, but by the weight of his own lies. Kale stepped back. It's over. All around the galaxy, reactions spread fast. Crowds gathered. People, aliens, humans, hybrids, watched the footage. The lie was dead, and in its place stood one man in living armor, not crowned, not worshipped, just remembered. Kale removed his helmet for the first time since the awakening. His eyes were tired, but they were clear. He looked at the sky and whispered, We're not your tools. We're not your pets. We're not your joke anymore. The Echo 9 armor, hearing his words, responded one final time. Protocol complete. Legacy restored. Shall we rest now? Kale smiled softly. Yeah, I think we earned it. There was no victory parade, no golden medals, no proud banners, waving in the wind. Just silence. And stars. Drax Valen had been taken into custody, not by the conquered, but by his own legacy. The very lies he built became the chains around him. The station, once filled with whispers of fear and hatred toward humans, now echoed with a different kind of silence. A respectful one. Kale walked alone through the same hallways where he used to carry tools, where aliens used to laugh behind his back, where he used to feel invisible. Now, everyone saw him, but he didn't walk like a conqueror. He walked like someone who knew pain, who knew weight, and carried it anyway. In the central plaza of Virex, Delta, people from across the galaxy gathered. No one told them to. No message went out. They just came. Grok warriors, Vryn thinkers, Zekan scouts, even humans, few in number but standing tall now. They all waited for Kale to say something. He stood at the platform, looked around, and simply said, I wasn't born to wear this armor. I was chosen because I was willing to carry it, even when it didn't feel like mine. He placed his hand on the Echo 9 chest plate. The armor shimmered, and then began to fall away piece by piece like dust breaking into light. Each fragment floated upward, joining the sky, until nothing remained but Kyle, just Kyle, standing in silence. A human, unarmed, undefeated. Lyra stood behind him, watching. He gave it up, someone whispered in the crowd. No, Lyra said gently. He set it free. In the following weeks, the galaxy changed. The truth about the Echo Legion spread. Records were unsealed. Apologies were issued. Schools began to teach the real history. And in one distant system, a statue was raised, not of Kale in armor, but of a simple human in work clothes, hand outstretched, palm open. The base of the statue read, "He didn't strike first, he listened first." Kale disappeared from public life. Some said he returned to Earth. Others said he went into deep space, chasing signals from old human colonies. Lyra received a message from him once, just one. It read, "If the armor ever stirs again, tell it I'm proud of it, but the story doesn't end there, because legends never die. They rest, they wait, and sometimes they pass on quietly." Years later, in a distant mining colony, a young human girl named Nyla was digging in the old ruins beneath her village. She found something glowing under the dirt, smooth, curved metal. She touched it with one finger. It hummed, gently, not loud, not dangerous, just waiting. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She sat down beside it and smiled. Far, far away, in a dormant system of ancient satellites. A signal blinked. A soft voice whispered in the dark. New host detected. Pattern, peaceful. Worth, unknown, but promising. Because Echo 9 wasn't just a suit, it was a memory, a story, a choice, and now it was ready to choose again.